Good morning to you, Josh. This story has generated a great deal of discussion.
Yeah, we've had a huge reaction, both from the right and the left, wondering why, since Hillary Clinton now says that Boko Haram is a terrorist group and is committing terrorist acts, did she refuse actually fight very hard against designating them as a terrorist group when she was Secretary of State? A lot of people are scratching their heads and wondering, did she drop the ball here? If she had designated Boko Haram as a terrorist organization in 2011, when it was called for by the FBI, the CIA, the Justice Department, many others, maybe we would have a better beat on them today, and maybe we have a better chance of finding these girls. I guess we'll never really know. There were some reasons that the State Department had for not doing it at the time. But looking back, you have to wonder.
Well, I mean, you say the FBI, the CIA, the Justice Department. General Carter Ham, who was the chief of U.S. Africa Command at the time, in June of 2012, basically said, look, they're sharing funds and training and explosive materials with Al-Qaeda. And still, they didn't make any determination that this was a terrorist
organization. Yeah, there's a lot more than that. Not only were they working with Al-Qaeda back in 2012, my colleague Eli Lake at the Daily Beast wrote a great article yesterday talking about how some of their original seed money came from Osama bin Laden himself. Not only that, in 2011, they actually bombed the UN headquarters in the Nigerian capital. If that's not terrorism, I'm not sure what is. So, I mean, the bottom line here is that the Hillary Clinton State Department decided that they weren't going to designate them as terrorists because the Nigerian government didn't want them to. So then the question you have to ask is, why was the State Department siding with the Nigerian government against the CIA, the FBI, the Justice Department, General Carter Ham, about a dozen lawmakers on Capitol Hill, and many others?
Josh Rogin's our guest. He's, of course, from the Daily Beast. And you appeared this weekend with our friend Tucker Carlson there, and you sort of zoomed out a little bit and said, listen, let's not just look at Nigeria. Let's look at the entire North Africa region here between the bungling in Libya in the aftermath of of our leading from behind there and getting rid of Gaddafi. That, of course, resulted in the horrible Benghazi situation. And now you've got over in Nigeria the Boko Haram issue and the fact that the State Department couldn't put them on the list of foreign terrorist organizations. You used the words asleep at the wheel, specifically about Hillary Clinton's State Department and the Obama administration. That certainly doesn't fit with their narrative that Al-Qaeda has been decimated.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think I was the first, and I certainly won't be the last to look at the Hillary Clinton State Department's treatment of Boko Haram and to look at some of the criticisms of their handling of the attack on Benghazi, which, by the way, happened around the same time, and to make a connection there. Because, the connection is that this administration, primarily led by the White House, had a narrative in 2012 when they were running for a re-election. And that narrative was that Al-Qaeda is on the run, the tide of war is receding, that their strategy against Al-Qaeda was working, and that they had done a lot to make us safer, right?
Yeah.
Now, there's evidence that Al-Qaeda in Pakistan and Afghanistan, has taken some hits over the years, but yet Al-Qaeda in North Africa and in the Islamic Maghreb, it's getting worse and worse.
But Josh Rogin, when you talk about this, though, I mean, a lot of people are saying, listen, they just wanted to win that re-election, so it was part of their narrative. They had to say Al-Qaeda was on the run. But I hear other critics in town saying there's something bigger than that. It's the fact that the career diplomats at the State Department and Hillary Clinton when she was Secretary of State, as well as most of the top dogs there at the White House, they just can't bring themselves to call radical Islamic terrorism what it is and call it by its name. And you see this in the so-called hashtag diplomacy where it's very benign. Bring our girls back. Well, who's got our girls and why did they take them?
Right. I mean, there's a couple things going on here. One is that if you're working at the State Department, you're always engaged in this sort of clientism, right? Your idea is that the relationships are more important than the results. And so you lean too much on, having these cooperative relationships with these governments and not doing what has to be done, even if it's unpopular. And I think that's part of what's going on. And the other part of what's going on here is that they were just they might have been just unaware that Boko Haram was getting this bad this fast. They just might have not come to the conclusion as quickly as the FBI that Boko Haram was really a danger. And that's not really a political decision. That could just be basic incompetence. Like, the great myth about the Obama administration is that everything's a conspiracy. Well, sometimes they just screw up. So like I can't tell you whether or not they were doing it for political reasons, or because they just screwed up, or because a combination of both, or because they were yielding to the people who were giving them the wrong advice. It's probably a combination of a lot of these different things.
Well, I mean, I always decide that if a reporter's onto something, if they're attacked by Media Matters, and I noticed that they're coming after you guys, so that's a good sign. Hey, listen, I want to talk about the Benghazi committee up on Capitol Hill, the Select Committee. Sure. You got the Republicans have decided that who their members are going to be. Democrats trying to decide whether they're going to participate. But what you hear a lot of times is, there's nothing left to learn here. That seems to be the narrative by many. Do you think, as much as you know about the story, are there still questions to be answered there?
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to credit Tucker here. He made a really good point on his show on Saturday. He said, if they find new stuff, then everyone will say it was worth it. And if they don't find new stuff, then everyone will say it was BS. And I think that's their burden, really, because I think there are a lot of open questions, and yet there is a lot of BS going around about the debate in Benghazi on both sides of the issue, right? So it's going to be this committee's, responsibility to prove that they actually were able to find new stuff and ask questions that people want to know about and get answers from the administration. If they can do that, then I think that it's going to be big news. I think that it's going to tell us more about what happened in both the lead up to the attack and in the aftermath of the attack that we didn't know. And those questions are out there. Whether or not Democrats participate is not really important, because we know that the digging is being done on the Republican side, and we'll see how they do. I think the test is on them.
All right, Josh Rogin, thank you so much for joining us. Greatly appreciate it.
Anytime.